When talking about digital card games, it's really easy for developers to design fun and crazy cards without noticing how they will affect the game. Sometimes when adding a new card, it creates new interactions that have never seen before. And other times you design a card so strong the moment it gets played it feels like the game is just over. Unchained is no exception to this. At this point, Unchained has released several expansions and playable cards, most of them being fairly balanced, but what about those cards that kept reminding devs and players something is wrong? Be ready to meet the 5 Unchained cards that destroy the meta. Card games have been around for ages, and one thing they all have in common is randomness. This randomness, or RNG, allows players to experience unique, unpredictable scenarios every time they play. So, is RNG good? Well, yes and no. Every game needs a healthy amount of RNG to keep it fresh and fun. There's a fine line between just the right amount and too much. Too much randomness can make a game feel more about luck than skill. Unchained is no stranger to RNG. Either losing to a top deck or a good job making the right attack and just win you the game. RNG always felt okay. It wasn't until players realized the hidden power of Lost in the Depths that this so-called randomness became an issue. Lost in the Depths targets a creature and obliterates all cards in your deck with the same mana cost while drawing a card. At first, it seems like a weird, maybe even useless card, but in card games, being able to remove 99% of your deck, leaving just the key pieces, is usually broken. Lost in the Depths was initially released in the Genesis expansion. Initially, players were using Lost on the early game minions after reaching mid-game, so they wouldn't draw low mana cost cards, but that's not the exact reason that makes Lost in the Depths broken. Lost found its home in combo decks. The first one to be introduced was Infinite Portal Wranglers. Players would fill their decks with 1 mana cost cards that either draw or foresee. They would mulligan for Lost and then use it on a 1 mana cost creature, which removes all the 1 mana cost cards, leaving behind only combo pieces. Then, they would discount Portal Wrangler to 0, and use Clone to make a copy of that 0 mana cost Wrangler. Because Wrangler gives you a copy of the previously played creature, if you play 2 0 mana cost Wranglers one after another, you can just fill your board and end your turn with another 0 mana cost Wrangler in your hand, making it a really efficient deck to win games by turn 5 or 6. The meta was not as fast back then, and the board clears were pretty expensive. Finding Lost on the mulligan or facing any control deck translated into an easy win. Also, God Power Foresee enabled you to look 2 cards into your deck for 1 mana, increasing the consistency of finding Lost. This was a huge issue, mainly because players on the other side of the board had no control over the game. Their decisions had no impact on the outcome. Whether they win or not fully depended on how fast their opponent got Lost. Most players would concede when Lost was played in the first turns, which made this a farming deck. Win rates always hovered around 50%, and that was perfect. It meant the list was not broken enough for anything to be done about it, and playing against it felt no different to flipping a coin. You might be thinking, well, nobody in their right mind would use this setup in tournaments, right? Well, you're wrong. Since most tournaments were best of 3, meaning you needed 2 wins to advance, whenever you won your first game, you could always decide to coin flip twice in a row, giving you a solid advantage. So eventually, the player base started to adapt, and the meta shifted to hyper-aggressive decks, leaving no space for Lost setups to find and play their pieces. It became an arms race. With every expansion added to the game, players would find new and faster ways to abuse Lost. On the other side, developers were constantly tweaking and nerfing cards that benefited the list. School Teacher was added to the game, and Lost rapidly found a way to abuse this mechanic, creating a stronger version that ended up OTKing your opponent from hand. Obviously, the player base was enraged, which eventually led to School Teacher being nerfed. Nowadays, we have Divine Coronet combo, which uses Undertow Striker to find Lost in the Depths even faster, enabling you to play and shuffle several copies of Coronet into your deck. Although players meme about lists like this one, Lost has shown its utility by sticking to the meta one way or another. As I mentioned before, RNG can be fun, making every game feel unpredictable, but how do we stop it from having such a high impact so early in the game? It is a never-ending problem no matter which expansion we're in. There will always be a deck that greatly benefits from Lost in the Depths, limiting the developer's power to create new and unique cards. Hello guys, Aldous here, and well, actually this is the hardest part of the video. I don't think I've taken or had as many takes for this as I had for any other part of the video. It actually took me quite a long time to do this, but if you haven't, please follow and drop a like, subscribe, whatever it happens on YouTube. I don't really know it, but yeah, it would help me a lot if you just write a comment, get notifications on or whatever. I'm trying to get the part 3 uploaded soonish. I'm working on it. I already have the cards, and well, hope you like this video so far, and I hope you like the whole series, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye-bye. Well, that was easy.